Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Daddy eats lots. Munch, munch, munch.
Hello and welcome to Daddy Eats Last, where we discuss the challenges of being a man in modern society and whatever the hell that even means. I'm Kane, and joining me tonight to chat man stuff is Ryan. Ryan, how are you?
Yeah, good, mate. You?
Good, good. We're a man down this evening. Maddie's partner has gone down unwell, so it's just you and I tonight. How was your weekend?
Yeah, weekend was nice. We were away at Phillip Island for most of the weekend. So got to get away a little bit and recharge the batteries and see some little penguins come in from the ocean Saturday night. So that was good fun. What about yours?
A pretty low-key one, to be honest. My parents came around yesterday morning. We actually had to go and look at a school for the little fella, I guess sort of longer term for school, but also preschool and stuff like that. So we did that yesterday morning. Probably about it for the weekend. We went to a park this morning as well. So it was a very sort of parentry sort of weekend for us. In Maddie's absence tonight, we do have a couple of notes which Maddie sent through via text. We're going to discuss the cheap and simple things in life that we enjoy. One of those could be something as easy as going down to Phillip Island and seeing the penguins. That's essentially almost a free exercise, isn't it, to see the penguins?
No, surprisingly not.
Oh, wow. What does a penguin cost these days?
It's like $26 for the general entry, and then if you want the VIP, it moves up into like $80.
What does a VIP experience with a penguin entail? I'm not sure I should ask that.
I don't know. They went to a different viewing deck, but to be honest, I ended up walking over there later and snuck in anyway. So, but there was heaps of people there, so they must be making quite a bit. Although most of the funds go to conservation stuff, I think. So it is still a pretty cheap, simple pleasure, I guess.
Yeah, it is fairly cheap. It's probably more expensive than a lot of the things we'll discuss tonight. So do you want to lead off with one of your cheap and simple pleasures that you enjoy, Mr. Ebert?
Yes, I am a big fan of a very good coffee. So what are they now? Usually around the $4 mark. If I go back to the home state in Perth, significantly more, for definitely not as good as Melbourne.
Well, you drink your coffee black, where a lot of people have some sort of derivative of nut milk or some kind of odd milk in there, which usually bumps it up by 50 cents to $1. So you can get away with sort of a $4 coffee because you drink it straight.
True. Yes, I do enjoy the long blacks. No, I think
What is it about coffee?
For me, I don't know. I was thinking about this when we last minute determined this topic about 20 minutes ago, and I think the times that I'm thinking of, like obviously, I have 1 to 2 coffees, or I should say probably 2 to 3 coffees a day, with my sort of workload. But that's not the simple pleasure that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about sitting in a cafe with a really nice, just hot coffee on a mild sort of day, which luckily Melbourne has quite a lot of. And I also think it's the combination of having a really nice, good coffee that gets me going, but just having 15, 20 minutes to enjoy it is probably the biggest part of the simple pleasure. Although I do get quite a bit of pleasure out of, I guess, picking up a coffee and ducking into a quiet zone at work and sort of enjoying that and starting my day. So I'm not really sure. Maybe it's the caffeine buzz, maybe it's the addiction that I have to it, but it's definitely a pleasure that I don't skimp out on. And having moved to Melbourne 6 years ago, I am far too much of a coffee snob.
It's funny how it happens to people who live in Melbourne, especially. I'm almost 6 months off coffee now. The time's really flown. Like I really got off coffee because the better half one day said to me, "Oh, you couldn't give up coffee for a day," because I was drinking maybe 3 or 4 coffees a day at that point. I've gone, well, I'm sure I can do that. And I haven't had one since that day. So it's been the best part of 6 months, but I can still understand how nice it is to sit down, be it with a book or a paper, or just sit in a cafe and just enjoy a coffee. It's something about, I don't know if it's the aroma of the coffee, not that I have a great sense of smell, or just the ambience of where you're sitting in that break from everyday life, which is probably the simple part, which is nice about it.
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm a fan of another simple pleasure is actually just sitting somewhere and people watching. So combining the two is a very nice win.
I like it. Well, Matty posted one in via text message. One of his favourite things, which is a cheap and simple pleasure, is when he's at Coles or Woolies and there's a sale on Twirls, the Cadbury chocolate bar, the Twirl, which is essentially a flake inside chocolate, I believe. Pretty delicious, but when they're on special, it's a cheap and simple and guilty pleasure for him because he can buy it and then scoff it in the car park while nobody's watching.
I think the scoffing in the car park thing was the best part.
Yeah.
So, not even own the simple pleasure and go home and the kids are in bed and then he turns around and goes, you know what, I'm going to have my chocolate. He's just like, nah, I'm going to completely do this as if he's a naughty child or something.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to share it with anyone. Like, he probably doesn't come home with a chocolate smear on the side of his face or anything like that. So he gets off completely scot-free and he's got his $1 spend, which in the course of a family budget would probably not be a blip on the radar. So yeah, that's a good one, Matty. I like that. Now, one of mine, which takes me back like quite a way, it's still something I do enjoy, especially in summer, and especially if I've been doing any sort of physical activity outside, is to crack open a really nice cold beer in the shower. It's something which a lot of people don't understand, and especially maybe the fairer gender don't understand that. And it comes from back in the sporting days where you'd finish playing soccer or you'd finish playing cricket, and you'd probably less so cricket, but soccer you'd go and have a shower afterwards because you'd usually be covered in mud or grass or something, and there'd be a six-pack or a slab there after the game, and you just grab a beer and everyone would take a beer and they'd go into the shower. So I don't know if it's again harping back on the nostalgia, but when you're that hot and flustered and almost exhausted, an ice cold beer under like a cold shower is just an amazing feeling.
I was definitely with you there when you were going the cold beer, and then when you said the shower, I kind of was a bit speechless for a second. But now that you've explained the sporting thing, I can get that, because I remember, yeah, much the same with footy or hockey now. After a game, there are beers around and you will have a shower, but I don't know that I've actually ever had said beer whilst in the shower simultaneously. I think I've had the beer, started sipping it, had half of it gone, had a quick shower, came out and continued to enjoy it. But I might have to try this shower combination.
You're missing out on a very cheap and simple pleasure in life, because a beer now, what's it, maybe $4 for a stubby or a can that you could take in, ice cold, bust it out after, like you do a lot of Spartan races. I know you got another one coming up in a couple of weeks' time. That would be an ideal time to try one. You're a little bit sore, still a bit hot, feel a bit sort of, man, I've had a tough day.
They give you a can of beer at the end of it for free as well. So
they're onto something. I think Spartan might subscribe to this particular pleasure in life. So that's one for people to try it there. If you've never done it before, I highly recommend it, especially now that we're, I guess, still in some kind of peak of summer. Even if you've just mowed the lawn outside and you're coming back in to have a shower and you're hot, it's well worth having a crack at, because it's something I've always enjoyed.
Fair enough. I'm definitely going to have to put that on the to-do list.
What about you? You got another one for me which I can put on my to-do list?
Yeah, so, well, I mean, I can't do much of it at the moment with Feb Fast, but I actually really enjoy, and it's a weird simple pleasure, but really enjoy doing, it's kind of like Mad Men style, doing a bit of work. So see, if I'm working from home, and hopefully some people that I work with are not listening to this, but if I'm working from home and just kind of having a bit of a block or something like that, just pulling out a bit of a whiskey or a glass of red after about lunchtime and just having it on the desk whilst ploughing through a bit of work is a simple pleasure that I do a lot less now than I used to when I was completely running our businesses. But not doing any of it now with FebFast, but definitely a pleasure, especially on a Friday where you kind of get to around 3 o'clock and you're like, I do have plenty to do, but everybody else is tuning off. And if I can sneak away and just have a glass of nice red or a whiskey straight, Mad Men style, knocking off a bit of work is a bit of a pleasure.
Mate, I absolutely agree with you there. We actually used to have, like, I won't call it a Scotch club, back when I was employed at a much larger accounting firm. But on a Friday, I used to have a bottle of Scotch in my bottom drawer, and on a Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, I'd usually have like almost a revolving door of people coming in and out to have Scotch. Wasn't condoned by the accounting firm. They probably didn't even know it happened. I was right next to the kitchen, which was really helpful. So people would come in with a glass, 2 glasses of ice. I'd pour a Scotch. We'd sit down and just chat about the week. And it was a really good way for me and I guess my friends at the firm to kind of debrief on what the week was like. So yeah, I 100% get it. And again, there's been times late at night at the same firm where you'd work back and you'd have a couple of beers and you go back to do a bit more work. It was just a good way of kind of mixing that social side of things with the work side of stuff. So mate, I 100% get that one.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of that one. And I think unfortunately it's getting a bit lost in today, which annoys me a bit as a, I guess, keen businessman who is young. But the Friday just 2-3 hour luncheons that used to go on that I read were very prominent in the 80s and 90s, probably because you also had tax loopholes that you could get away expensing them.
Correct.
But I mean, similar to what you're saying, where you had a bit of a revolving door and debriefing on the week and what's going on and the challenges, and just actually taking a bit of time to sit back with a few colleagues with maybe a cheeky drink, and then go back to work and finish the week, but sort of work on the bigger challenges in life.
Yeah, and it wasn't an expensive thing because we'd only be drinking like maybe a Jack Daniels or something like that. We weren't drinking like an $150 bottle of scotch. It's more the facilitation of the conversation around social things. So while the alcohol was part of it, it wasn't the main part of it. So it was a cheap and simple thing of just sitting around talking with friends. And I've got another one, and mine goes back to food with this instance. I'm a big sucker for a $10 plate of dumplings or minimum chips from the fish and chip shop. I could just go and eat a $10 plate of dumplings, or go to the fish and chip shop and get minimum chips and just sit on a park bench and just go to my happy place.
Yeah, we when we were in Phillip Island this weekend, actually, TK, we were out for lunch, and I'm like, "What do you want?" And she was really frustrating me a bit, taking quite a long time. And I knew what I wanted. I was having a burger and chips and that kind of thing. She goes, "You know what? I'm just gonna have the bowl of chips," and was like a little kid with an ice cream afterwards, just so satisfied, so happy with it. Nice guilty pleasure there.
It's just one of those things. Like, it's because you grew up with fish and chips. Like, that was really the only takeaway we could have when we were much younger. When I was a kid, there was only really maybe one Chinese restaurant, a fish and chip shop in the area, and maybe some Red Rooster and McDonald's. That'd be it. That's the only fast food you could get. Now you can walk. I can walk down the street and walk past 10 different cuisines, where back then it was literally just fish and chip Friday, and you get minimum chips and a piece of flake, and it was maybe the equivalent of now like maybe $20 for a family. So yeah, I kind of grew up on that. So again, just harping back to nostalgia, and minimum chips is like $3 or $4 now, which is fairly inexpensive to actually be able to
enjoy.
Partake. Yeah. Now, Maddie had a second one, and this is super unusual. Every 2 years, he goes back, and this would be, I'd imagine this would be cheap and simple because he'd have this on DVD or have them on a hard drive. He goes back every 2 years and watches every episode of the TV series Lost. Now, I don't know a lot about Lost, but my understanding is it's about a plane which crashes on a desert island, and then all sorts of weird and crazy stuff happens. But Maddie, if you're listening, that's an unusual thing, mate. Do you have anything?
It was fantastic.
Yeah, it's gold.
I just thought it was fantastic that he went back every 2 years to the dot.
Yeah, it must be as part of 10 or 12 years old now. So he's probably gone back 5 or 6 times through the entire series of episodes to watch it.
Yeah, I think it just came on Stan, and I think I saw it. It's like 2005 or something. I watched, I think, the first season, maybe the second or part of the second, and then I was sort of dropped off after that. But yeah, I thought that was a fantastic one of his.
It's 2004 it was released. There's 6 series, and in total there are, 25 episodes, 18 episodes. So it'd be over 100, probably around 100 episodes in total.
Wow.
That is that is an impressive, kind of an impressive and kind of a scary thing to be doing, I guess. But that's another one of Maddie's ones. Is there any TV shows which you go back and look at?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of How I Met Your Mother, so I sort of go back and just pick some random episodes out of that. Suits or Billions are a very big guilty pleasure, and I've definitely seen those series many times. And as we've spoken to several times about this, you can't really go past the old episodes of The Simpsons.
Ah, yes, yeah, that is true. I don't really watch a lot of
But I
stuff
do,
though.
no, well, I do find that so we're watching The Office at the moment, which is pretty funny, and I'm definitely a late entrant to that one.
Are you on the US or the UK version?
The US.
That is
No one seems to ask me that.
It's a bone of contention. They're both good, but they are different.
Yeah, I'll have to watch the UK one and check it out. But I do a simple pleasure of mine when I am genuinely sick and have a sick day. I will go back and watch one of the Fast and Furious movies. When I'm curled up on a couch, I'll pull out like my doona. I'll watch one of the Fast and Furious movies, and I'll order a pizza for lunch. And I literally do it to a T when I am that sick, because very rarely do I actually take a sick day off work. But if I'm genuinely that sick that I'm just not leaving the house, I set myself in for that, and bonus if I can end up watching two of the movies.
How many Fast and Furious are there now? Is 8 or 9?
I think they're making the 9th at the moment.
Wow. Which one's your favourite one that you go back to if you like when you're having a sick day? Is there one which you like in particular?
Oh, I'm a pretty big fan of all of them, to be honest. So it's probably the one that I haven't watched the most recently. I do like the second one a lot.
Yep.
And I like I actually do like the Tokyo one, even though it's probably rated as the worst one. But and 5 and 7, I'm a pretty big fan of those ones as well. But sure enough, there'll be when there's a new movie that comes out, me and a mate of mine will be at the cinemas checking it out. Even though every single time they bring a new one out, you just sit there and you go, it's become even more unrealistic than the last one. So it hasn't been a bit real for about probably since the third movie. So
it was getting pretty unreal around the Tokyo Drift one. I think that was the third one. I don't know a lot about the franchise, but I do know
that was the third one.
And that seemed to jump the shark at that point of time. So you'd be off to see Hobbs and Shaw next year or later this year?
Yeah, if it comes out, I'll check it out.
There you go. Another one, in winter, a hot bath, Epsom salts in there, which would be good just to let things absolutely relax. But a hot bath in winter, I just can't go past it. It is just hot water in a tub. It's not an outrageous thing to be doing, but just sit back on a Sunday night, especially just before the week starts, just to kick back and just relax. It's just, that is a cheap and simple thing that I love to do.
Yeah, I think a nice simple pleasure is any form of sort of water, of just being able to dive into a bit of a pool or a spa, especially if it's cold and the water's warm, is a bit of a win.
I used to do a lot of that when I was a kid. I was lucky enough to live close enough to school that I could ride to school in about 10 minutes in year 11 and 12. And we had a really inexpensive, crappy outdoor pool. So I'd often be in the pool before school. So I'd get up at sort of 6, do a paper round, come back, jump in the pool and just submerge myself in the pool and just kind of just listen to the silence of underwater for sort of minutes on end. Just stuff like that. Just being like you said before, being in the water is just an amazing feeling.
Definitely. I'm another, I guess, simple pleasure that I really do go to quite a lot is just running, just enjoying going for a run. Whether it's the endorphin or the runner's high that you get, but a run with music is a wonderful way of just tuning out of the world for a little while.
Yeah, and that's combining two things as well. The music component's fantastic, and the running and the exercise is great, and both completely inexpensive because radio is essentially free if you don't want to pay for anything at all. A lot of people can just stream Spotify again fairly cheaply or inexpensively, and running or walking if you can't or don't run is wonderful. How often do you get to partake in a lot of these? Like I know some of mine, like a beer and a shower, I haven't done for a little while now, but dumplings I had the other day. Do you get to partake in a lot of these frequently?
Yeah, surprisingly, actually, and I'm just realizing it whilst we're talking about it now. Um, I do try and build them as a habitual thing.
Yeah.
So, like on my tracking, I've got to go running at least once a week. So I do that. I went for a Sunday run this afternoon. Definitely not partaking in the during business hours cheeky drink. That not nearly as much as I'd like, but yeah, sort of once a week I'll get to have a coffee that is just genuinely I'm going to sit down and enjoy this for the next 20-30 minutes. So probably I'd say weekly would be the goal.
Yeah, I guess a really good time frame to aim for. Like a lot of these things aren't everyday things. They're things that you can, some of them are, but a lot of them aren't everyday things that you could plausibly do every day. But it's important to set aside some time to do something that you enjoy to do. Ideally, it's something you really enjoy. If it's cheap and simple, that's a bonus because it's something you can replicate many times without actually costing too much as well or really affecting other people. As a term I learned a few weeks ago and we discussed previously, it's just a good, quick, simple, cheap way of doing a little bit of self-care.
Yeah, and I think thinking about it, yeah, weekly is sort of a sweet spot because I do notice that if I don't get to do them in a week, like I will find myself being like, okay, either I'll say it that I'm being a shit to people around me, but more often than not, other people let me know that I'm being a shit, and it's like, okay, just go for a run tonight, or just do something like go for a walk this morning and pick up a coffee or something like that. Because yeah, if it goes too long without just a little self-care pleasure, I suppose, I do become quite a bit of a shit, to be honest.
As everyone does, life bleeds into nights and stuff now. Like it's not like the old days where you'd work from 9 to 5 and then you clock off and that was it. That's all you worked. You might stay back a little bit, but once you left, it was done. Life's not like that anymore. So if you can take time during the day to do something which you like to do, and you get some pleasure from, I think it's really important because life is just getting faster and faster and faster.
Yeah, and on that, I find one of the hard things is, well, firstly on that, another cheeky pleasure of mine is any work day that I get to wear a t-shirt is like a win. That's a real, for me, that's a big, simple pleasure of just being like, yes, I'm in control of my day. And probably as a result of sort of the stuff that I'm now involved in to where I was before, where I got to wear t-shirts all the time. But yeah, so any day that I get to be like, all right, I'm gonna wear a t-shirt, it's almost like I'll stick it to the man type situation. So I quite enjoy that simple pleasure. But I think, what you're saying there about really today, and one of the problems with all this changing roles, men, women, parents, work especially, is the creep. And I find one of the things that I struggle with massively is that my simple pleasures can get small because I'll let, say, work creep occur. So, like even today I did 3-4 hours on a Sunday. And I'll get up early and I'll do this, and your days definitely stretch. They're not 9 to 5, they go, 10, 12-hour days, whatever it happens to be. But I have a real problem with just actually being like, okay, so I'm starting work at 8 and finishing and leaving the office at 6:15. And then the next day going, oh, I actually have a bit of a gap here that happens to be 10:30. Maybe I should just sit in a cafe for half an hour and enjoy one of my simple pleasures. But the guilt that you feel because you're actually in that time is one of the things that I struggle with enjoying these simple pleasures, because it just creeps into you.
Yeah, 100% right. I was lucky enough, not last week, the week before, to be at the beach at the most perfect morning. It was Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and it was the most perfect morning I could have been at this particular beach. There was really no one else around. The water was crystal clear. I was up out to my waist, I could see my feet. It was warm enough to be in the water. I could have, in theory, stayed there all day, but like you're saying, it's the guilt in my head. I'm going, I've got this to do. I've got that to do. I've really got to do this. I've got to do that. I had to actually physically stop myself from walking out of the water and just go, no, I can take another 5 or 10 minutes now, and I can catch that up later, because it's important that I have this time now to make up for, when I don't have it later on.
Yeah, and I think I was reading something around. I mean, it's especially rife with small business owners, but you'd say that with anyone now, because we are so accessible, which is good because technology enables us to have flexibility. But it's sort of important that, well, yeah, one of the things I'm trying to work on a bit more, or one of the things that I struggle with, is actually having the two-way flexibility to go, hang on a minute, work just ate away a part of my weekend or my Saturday, or I finished work last night at 6:30 and I'd love to take a little bit of that time back, and the guilt that comes with that. I think something that's really hard to do these days, but that's where I guess probably knowing what a simple pleasure of yours is, or acknowledging that, hey, this is a simple pleasure of mine and I haven't had it because, I've been burning the candle at one end. Maybe you can take a little bit back the other way.
Yeah, I actually try now for staff, especially if I'm working at a time which I don't expect staff to be working. I have the ability to schedule my emails to go at a particular time. So I'll schedule my emails to go the next morning. I don't want to interrupt staff at particular times by sending an email when I'm working. I don't expect a response. I'll schedule it to go first thing tomorrow morning, and whenever they get to it, they get to it. So I'm trying to be good towards staff, but I still have that internal guilt and the eternal, like, oh my God, I need to be, on the clock doing this because no one else will do it. And yeah, that self-care stuff often falls by the wayside, but there's a cheap and simple way to do things, and it's something quick. Then I'll always try to incorporate that into a day or a week.
Yeah, and I think I don't think either of us are going to have the answers, and I don't think many people do have the answers at the moment. But I think it's just an acknowledgement that it's probably a reality for a lot of people, especially guys out there juggling all things that are being a modern man today. That that there's a huge part of guilt that comes with a lot of activities. It's like we never have enough time to give to work or that side of life, and then you feel guilty because you don't have enough for family or other things, and you kind of get two-folded. So I think it's just being a bit more, as you said, self-care on yourself, I guess.
Yeah. Now, one last one, Ryan, before we pull up stumps for this evening without Matthew. Fresh sheets. When fresh sheets are put on the bed, the first night you get to sleep in the fresh sheets. Every time we jump into bed, my better half always says, fresh sheets, can't beat it. Are you in that boat?
I'm a big fan of fresh sheets. Yeah. I'm probably not to that extreme where I make comment every time, but it is definitely noticed when you just like, we really should change the sheets and wash them a bit more often, actually.
I've actually done them and slipped them on a couple of times without her actually knowing that the sheets have been changed, and I can just see if she can pick up on the fact that they're fresh sheets. And almost every time it's like, are these fresh sheets? Yes, they're fresh sheets, and it's bliss.
Good way to get some brownie points there, for sure.
That is true. I need them sometimes. So anyway, that wraps it up for this week. Do subscribe to Daddy Eats Last on iTunes, and while you're there, please leave a review. Also, tell your mates about the podcast, especially if they're guys. But most of all, thanks for listening, and we'll be back next week for another episode, or should I say serving, of Daddy Eats Last. How's that for a dad joke? Catch you next week.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.